They murdered my grandma in cold blood. And like disrespected her the whole time. It sucks. And it was a surprise. It was on a weekend. You know? They couldn't even do it on the week. Like a weekday. It sucks. She was denied dignity. I'm talking about my forestry grandma. She's not actually dead. I should probably clarify that. She is very much alive, but she has been fired after 36 years of service to the public lands. And that's significant. I don't think I can even really relate to you how important that is, okay? She's done a job that most people only make it 3 years. She's done it for 36. Because it's hard. It's rugged. You gotta be tough. She possesses a skill set that can't be replaced. You know, she does my old growth surveys. And you gotta be good at, like, knowing your forbs. Your understory plants. There's codes associated with all of that. There's a rule book this thick. Okay? Measuring the timber that's standing. There's a lot of rules about that. You cannot replace that knowledge very easily. She's observed 40 years, nearly 40 years of silvicultural history. That's incredibly important to me, what she possesses there. I can send her to like a thinning unit where we're looking to see if we need to reduce the density of the stand to help the trees grow better. And she can just say yes or no. And if it's a yes, then we get the measurements, okay? But it saves me time. I'm not going out and measuring the nose. She can do that with diseased stands for blister rust. Are we going to prune it or not? She can give me a yes or a no. Powerful. She's a wonderful crew lead. I like to call her Scary Sherry because she just influences you to do your best and makes sure that it's all right. So having her get the crew to where they need to go and making sure that it's done right is so important to me. You know, for that same purpose, she's really good at supervising contracts, which is like a lot of what we do. You know, with the planters, she gets up in there and she makes sure that they're planting right. Sherry has planted thousands of trees. She knows what it is to plant a good tree. And she scares the contractors into doing that. But she also brings them baked goods, okay? And like shows this level of like humanity and love. Like she has soul to her, okay? And the South Americans, they call her abuelita, which is like the affectionate form of like grandma. It's like grandmother. There's a certain level of respect in that word, and that's what they use for her. Even though she scares them. You can't replace her, okay? And she has done so much for this forest, and she deserves respect. She was not afforded that in any way, shape, or form. You know, the buyout was only available for a short period of time. Nobody knew who was being fired. She was on her off season because she is a seasonal employee, and, you know, we didn't know who was getting emails. It was to the individuals, you know, it was chaos. So yeah, it was surprising. It lacked dignity. Her partner, who also got fired, his firing papers say he was fired for lack of performance, and there has never been any documentation for lack of performance for that guy. You know, and that affects how you get, you know, unemployment and benefits after. You know, it's dirty. It was dirty, and that's 2 people, I know 8 that this affects. It's huge. It lacks logic. It just took out all of the ground personnel. How are we going to do the work now? There are ways to make things more streamlined and efficient. That's not what is occurring here at all. People want to tell me it's about the money. I don't think it's about that either. The USDA as a whole makes up 4% of the federal budget. There are a number of institutions underneath the USDA. The Forest Service is one of them. So potentially the Forest Service makes up like 1%. That's probably an overestimation of the budget. You know, you could get rid of all of the Forest Service. You could get rid of all of the USDA and it would probably just be dollars on your taxes. 1% would be like $50 on my taxes. Okay? That's $50 to manage all the federal lands. I don't think that's that much. Okay? You could get rid of us all and it wouldn't make a lick of difference. So I don't really think it's about the money either. I think it's about sowing fear and unrest and inciting chaos, crippling our ability to do our work. And what do you do in this situation? I've been thinking a lot about that, and that's where this shifts into like whatever I talk about. And I think that when fear is all around, true courage or power comes from like the ability to not try to hide from the fear or get rid of it. It's to recognize that it's there. And then to act despite it. Okay. You know, what better counter to chaos and unrest and fear than to find like joy, compassion, and kindness? That's like the ultimate form of like fudge you, right? In like the face of these like nasty whatever tactics. It's the ultimate form of freedom. It's the ultimate form of protest. Finding joy and acting despite the fear. So one of the things that I can do now is to find the things that bring me joy, like the things that I create that bring me joy, and to do that. Whatever you bring to the world, do it, and do it with joy. And it will be highly variable for everybody. For me, I think it's like, you know, trying to make a lot of strong trees very quickly. I think it's like, despite all of this crazy chaos, trying to do the best in my job that I can. Like, there is a piece of me that wants to collapse and give up on my work, but, you know, because my job may not exist here in 3 months. Not even that, like 2 weeks. Who knows? You know, to die with my boots on. If they're going to axe me, my boots are going to be on and I was doing work. That in and of itself is an act of protest. You know, what they want is a collapse. I'm not going to give it to them. Another form of protest is like, we threw a party for Sherry. A you got fired party where we ate some food and just like chilled. Coming together as a people in times of like, you know, what would be mourning, and make it as a celebration as best you can. So these are all things that we can do. You know, it's like what I'm feeling now, this chaos, this unrest, like this unsureness of the future, like it's very specific to my job, okay? But I think that no matter who you are and where you are, you're experiencing this to some extent. So, again, like, find what brings you joy and just do it. And that's all I wanted to say. The next part is about, like, the storm that I feel brewing about the management of public lands. So, federally managed lands are the bomb.com because it's multi-use. Back in, like, the 60s, we created the multi-use purpose, and, like, it embodies everything from what the hippies to the cowboys want. All of it. I like that. I like that it's a thing that all Americans share. It's ours, okay? I like that. It's one thing we're united in, okay? gets my like patriotism going. I don't know how to describe it. Okay. And like, again, we try to give activities. If you want to rip around on your motorcycle, you can. But there's also, quiet places, wilderness areas that you can walk through undisturbed. Okay. We manage for timber, right? That's what I do. Because we use a lot of wood, like our houses are made out of that, and that's important, okay? But also we like preserve or conserve certain ecosystems that are in decline, like high elevation stuff, like the bristlecone pine, whitebark pine. There's tons of little animals and stuff, okay? Like we do a lot, all right? I like that about federal lands. And currently, I feel like there's a real push to move like federally managed lands to the state. To each their own. The state is all about the endowment, which is let's make as much money as possible. Which is good too. We need that. Money's good. But like, money ain't everything. I don't think. Okay. So now currently, the House back in January made legislation, or excuse me, they changed a rule, that basically devalued public land. Why does that matter? When the federal government goes to sell land, they have to reimburse you, the people, okay? Because that land has timber, water, minerals, potentially. There's an intrinsic value, but they have to give the money back to the American people, and they put it back into, like all of the various programs that exist. The USDA, for example, gives a lot of loans to small farmers. Stuff like that. Okay? They have to put the money back into the system. But this rule that they changed drops that value, so they don't have to pay you as much as they probably should. So they've essentially set it up to clear house. And let me make sure I get this name right because it's so boring and I hate it. House Budget Committee Republicans have said that they are now considering, quote unquote, selling federal land to be an option for budget reconciliation. So they've dropped the price and they're ready to clear house. Okay, that's one of the things that's going on currently. There is a counter to that, so people are tracking it and trying to do something as a counter to it. It's a bill, I believe it's called H.R. 758, Public Lands in the Hands of the People, or something like that. It's a bipartisan bill from a Republican in Montana and a Democrat in New Mexico. So we can do some bipartisan things every now and again. And that bill basically puts restrictions on what they can sell based off of parcel size and like how it touches roads and stuff. It just puts rules on it, makes it a bit harder to sell it all off. So these are things that are currently happening. The state of Idaho, Montana, and Utah have all petitioned the state to turn federally managed land over to the state. So there is like that push there. One of them got kicked back from the Supreme Court, but I'm not sure about the other two. I haven't looked into that in a while. Things are happening, my friends. They've geared up to clear house. They've said they're gonna sell it. Okay? There is chaos within the federal branch that is managing the federal land. Chaos caused from within. The whole thing's wild. I don't even know how to describe it. So things are about to change. And I think that one of the things that we can do is think about how we want our public lands to be managed. What is important to you? And if you have listened to what is important to me, thank you. Okay? I'm long-winded. But I want to say that, I feel like we're on the same team. What I want more than anything is for the people to enjoy the land. I don't want it to just be sold off. because I'm not quite sure, like, if it is sold off, that it will actually be going to the people. I think it will just be going to the ones that can afford it. And I don't know if that's the people. That seems to be, like, other classes of people than, like, the middle or lower classes. You get what I'm saying? It's very difficult to finance Bearland. I just went through that whole thing. It's difficult. The rules are skewed towards the developer, not just like your average Joe American. So, anyways, thank you all for being here. I wish you the best.